Hi friend, today I would like to share with you about topic of interpretation. What do you mean by interpretation? The basic definition of interpretation, according to Webster Dictionary, is that action of explaining the meaning of something, the way something is explained or understood. What is an example of an interpretation? The definition interpretation is an explanation of a view of person, place, work, thing, etc. An example of interpretation is a feminist perspective on a work of literature. What is important of interpretation? Why data interpretation is important? The purpose of collection that an interpretation is to acquire useful and usable information to make the most informed decision possible. What is interpretation skill? Interpretation is the process of discovering, determining, or assigning meaning. Interpretation skill can be applied to anything: written message, chart, diagram, map, rap, meme, and verbal and non-verbal exchange. How do you use interpretation? Interpretation sentence example. Number 1. He read and he realized her interpretation of his answer. Number 2. His interpretation of the conversation were decided different. Number 3. But the difference of interpretation arose. Number 4. Magic is a true interpretation of miracle or anything they cannot understand. Number 5. The last article shows a keen analysis and interpretation of fact. What is interpretation in therapy? A therapeutic interpretation is a technique that introduces clients to a new theoretically based frame of reference. An interpretation goes beyond the explicit and observable line content and involve communicating an infer component with the intention of adding new knowledge, understanding, and meaning. What is interpretation in psychology? Interpretation is a process through which we represent and understand stimuli. One information is organized into categories. We superimpose it onto our life to give them meaning. Interpretation of stimuli is a subjective, which means that individuals can come to different conclusions about the exact same stimuli. How do you practice simultaneous interpretation? Start with just the source language and then interpret the source language into the target language. Use television and radio broadcast as interpreting material. Interpret them aloud simultaneously. What is an interpretation plan? A key step in interpretation planning is to define a set of interpretive objectives to clearly define what interpretation should be provided at a site and what it should aim to achieve. They can be used as a baseline to evaluate the effectiveness of the interpretation. What is an interpretation strategy? An interpretive strategy could be a useful tool in defining growth, organizational working. An interpretive strategy acts as a guide to ensure all interpretation meet the specific and defined needs of one more organization, and represent a framework within which more detailed interpretive plan should be produced. What is the role of community interpreter? The role of community interpreter. A community interpreter role is to deliver as faithfully as possible message transmitted between persons who do not speak English and service provider in a diverse land of health, social and community service setting. What is a good interpretation? Multitasking skill. A good interpretation involves listening, understanding, and communicating the message. All at the same time, hence, the interpreter must be adept in cognitive and analytical skill, keeping the deadline in mind. This will make it easy for interpreter to make people understand more effectively. What is a good interpreter? A good interpreter is more than just a skilled linguist. He or she is someone who is willing and able to be a good, compassionate listener. Interpretation situation can be intimidating for non-native speakers. An interpreter should not try to make the experience as comfortable as possible. How do you become a good consecutive interpreter? In order to be a good consecutive interpreter, you must be able to listen very actively, analyze what the speaker is saying, make useful notes which will jog your memory of the speech as you give back, and then be able to make the speech as if it was your own in your active language. Remember, subscribe to see the next video. Thank you.